I'm not a fan of resorts where you're spread out. I like to go to a hotel where I go straight up in an elevator,
Okay.
So here I am staying in this spot that they put us up at a resort. It was like half a mile from the main desk. And, they wanted us, even though the shotgun start was like 11 in the morning, they wanted us to be picked up at like 7. Go there and have breakfast and whatever. And I'm like, oh, my God.
That's early.
This is when I was in ESPN. I was a single man. I was out late and whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to wake up that early. Fine. I'll wake up that early. Woke up that early and standing in front of my spot, getting ready to be picked up, to be brought to the main desk, to go all the way out there. No, nobody's coming. They told me to be out there at a certain time and someone's going to come get. Still nothing. So I call the main desk. Now, I'm just taking a little breath here, but I'm a little heated. You know how I can get.
You already didn't want to be up that early.
So I busted out my flip phone, and I'm waiting for, I call the front desk, and I'm like, is there anybody there who can tell me when this lift is coming to take me to you so I can get to this golf course on time? And the person who answered the phone, he says, there's a bunch of people here from the tournament ready to go. And I'm like, exactly, I need to be with them. Can you put somebody from the tournament on the phone? And the member of the hotel's like, is there someone here from such and such tournament? And you heard one person go, yeah, I'm with that tournament. Well, Rich Eisen wants to speak to you. And get on the phone, and they're like, yeah, hello. And I'm like, are you with this tournament? Yeah, I'm with this tournament. I'm like, well, where is the, I'm trying to be calm because, you never know. I'm trying to be, polite because that's my default. And I'm like, but where is the ride? Mm-hmm. I think it should be there any minute, Rich. And I'm like, well, who is this? So I know. And he goes, this is Brooks Robinson. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Robinson, I wanted somebody who's managing the tournament, not like playing in it. One of the nicest guys ever.
This is Brooks Robinson.
Great story.
And that's how I welcome Jim Palmer to the program. How are you, Jim?
I'm good. He was a nice guy when he was playing third, and I threw those rockets down. He was the MVP in the 70 World Series, right? So, the one of the great All-Star games was the 71 All-Star game where he was played in 2 hours and 8 minutes, and there were like 8 home runs, all by Hall of Famers. Reggie hit I was actually warming up right up. Blue started the game for the American League, who would go on to win the Cy Young and the MVP in his rookie year. But Reggie hit one so far, there was complete silence. I mean, because everybody was watching to see how far the ball went. And it went way up on the roof and, hit the light tower. And I mean, a little bit like the natural, except, Barry Levinson wasn't producing.
We had
all that kind of stuff.
Jim, we had Reggie on the show just a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him about that home run. He said it was born out of Sal Bando telling him before he went to that All-Star game, don't embarrass us. And he thought,
didn't.
Yeah, I know.
As a matter of fact, he didn't.
He most certainly did not. But I was going to ask.
What's funny is that, we had played the Reds in the World Series year before, and, we ended up winning, game 4 games to 1. And, Brooks made all, you just don't, he was as good as he was with 16 straight gold gloves. You don't get the opportunities in one World Series to make all the plays that he made. It kind of started in game 1 when Lee May had singled in a run. I threw him a hanging curveball. He had a 2-run home run, and then I threw him a changeup. So I'd gone through pretty much my whole repertoire, and then that's the ball that Brooks catches going over the bag, and from the coaching box throws a one-hopper to Boog Powell to throw out Lee May. So now I figure, okay, Johnny Bench comes up. I pitched, innings 4 and 5. And I figured, you know what? I pitched him away in the World Series. I'll try to go up and in. And he hits this rocket in the hole. And Brooks, of course, dives to his left. Bench just goes, this is not fair. And I just figured, I'll see what Johnny Bench can do on the fastball, up and in. Well, I found out, but Brooks was there to save me. Yeah, when you talk about, he was a fabulous player, but
person.
Everywhere I've ever gone over the years, nobody that I've ever met said anything bad about Brooks Robinson. So, one of those perfect guys to have as a teammate. And, let's see, I'm 75. Brooks, he's probably 84, I think, somewhere there in that range. He's a great role model. If you wanted to kind of mirror who you're going to try to be like when, you get to the big leagues at 19 when I did. And Brooks, he's 27. He was like a year removed from being the most valuable player in the American League. it's somebody like Brooks.
Jim Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show. Jim, how would it have gone if there was a front office executive with the Baltimore Orioles who, armed with numbers like spin rate and exit velocity, would have walked into Earl Weaver's office and told him, this is who's starting today, and this is how long your pitcher is going to go against that other team because these are the numbers third time through the order? How would Earl Weaver have handled something like that?
Well,
Jim?
it's funny. I mean, Earl was the kind of head of the curve with the Weaver cards. He had the stats.
Yes.
He didn't know exactly when or, how current they were. He relieved me once with Tippy Martinez, up in New York, and I had a 4-1 lead. It was late in my career. Dave Winfield had hit an infield hit. And then, I think the score was 4-1 or something like that. So Tippy comes out. He's well rested. I'm happy about that. There's 2 outs in the 9th inning, and it'd been nice to have a complete game. But it's kind of, I just was looking for wins. I'd already had enough complete games, and Earl comes out and he goes, he's 2 for 20. He said that was only 2 for 23. And I said, well, actually, he was 0 for 21, and his last 2 hits, one was a arrested Tippy Martinez on a curveball down the way over the shortstop's head to beat us, and then the other one was an upper deck home run in the 12th inning when he had pitched 5 straight days, and his curveball was meandering up the home plate. And Weaver goes, what do you mean? I said, well, see, numbers don't tell you the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
And even today, we all know that's not the case. We have Sig Meidel does he's a NASA guy that worked with Mike Elias, who's now the president of baseball operations in Baltimore. And, he was kind of telling us how important runs are. And, if you do enough analytical things well, you can save, 35, 37 runs a game, whatever, or a year and whatever. So we were walking out of the stadium about 2.5 weeks ago, and I said, Sig, I went back to 2007, and I looked at runs scored per game in the major leagues, and I said they're down. So if, we're now at the 3 outcomes, which is strikeouts, walks and home runs. If home runs are that important, well, how come we're hitting more home runs, but we're scoring less runs are scored in a ballgame? Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he smiled. He said, I'm going to have to get back to you on that one.
Right.
And he's really a nice man,
right.
But the point is, I don't know. Analytics are what they are. You give a young pitcher who has a bad windup that can't repeat it. We want you to pitch in this quadrant. If you do this, if you do that, if the Edgertronic, the Rhapsodo camera tells you stay behind your slider and, you do this and whatever. But if you can't repeat your windup, what good is the information? If spin rate, we knew about spin rate. Mm-hmm. I mean, I used to always ask Elrod Henricks, who caught my no-hitter, I said, Elrod, how am I getting these guys out? He goes, they don't see the ball. They think they can hit that high fastball. And I'd have guys like Jim Spencer, the late Jim Spencer, he was 0 for 32. I kept him from hitting 300 2 straight years. And I'd see him, I was pitching on Wednesday in Texas. I'd see him on Monday when we were shagging, and then we had infield back in those days, infield and outfield for the game. He goes, I'm not going to swing at that high fastball on Monday. Tuesday, he says, I'm laying off that high hitter. Of course, on Wednesday, first high fastball, he'd pop it up or fly out or whatever. So in the 12th inning, I was going for my 20th win, and Jim McKeon blows a play. Mike Hargrove was out by about a half a step and calls him safe. And instead of winning 2-1, it's 2-2. And I'm trying to, win my 20th. It's late August. And Jim Spencer comes up, and, he was a low fastball hitter. You're in a tie ball game, 2-2 in the 12th inning, and I throw him a fastball away, and he gets a little soft line drive to the left. And I looked over. I said, do you want the ball? I said, he was from Baltimore. He used to play in our basketball team. I said, you could have been doing that for the last 2 years. So we knew about where to pitch guys. We knew that, as Elrod Henry said, they don't see the ball. You have a high fastball that has currently great spin rate. Mm-hmm. My first World Series game was Sandy Koufax's last game. And I'm on deck in Dodger Stadium, and Sandy throws Andy Etchebarren 3 fastballs, and he thought about swinging at all 3 of them, and he never could get the bat going. So as I'm walking up to home plate, I said, Etch, radio balls. He said, what? I said, you could hear him, but you couldn't see him. So I walk up to home plate, and he throws, and I was a pretty good hitter, and he throws this fastball, and It starts in the lobby and it ends up on the second floor. I said, I'm going to really have to get going. Well, he throws me the same pitch, except it's not his fastball. But, now there's a term tunneling, where if you throw the pitch out of the same, release point, they don't know the difference. Well, Roseboro catches it on the ground. And that's how I learned why Sandy Koufax was Sandy Koufax, because he had a fastball and a curveball, pretty much the two pitches he had. You could never tell the difference. One started in the lobby, ended up on the second or third floor. One started in the lobby, ended up in the lower basement. So, baseball hasn't really changed. It's just, I think they want to, quantify it and all that. But, I know pitchers are good and they're throwing with more velocity, and you could talk all day long about whether they're using substances or not. But at the end of the day, Ted Williams tapped his bat on the plate in 1969, said, boys, get a good pitch to hit, preferably a fastball, and you need to have a 6-degree upswing. So he talked about launch angle back in 1969, and of course he was Ted Williams.
Yes, Jim Palmer here on the Rich Eisen Show. I could talk to you all day, but before I let you go, Jim, I do want to give you the floor on Shohei Ohtani and what we're seeing, a unicorn every fifth day and certainly every other day.
Yeah.
I'll give you the floor on what we're seeing from him right now. Jim?
Well, it's just amazing. I was reading an article this morning about, Babe Ruth only pitched and played the outfield in 218 games. And he said, you can't do both. Well, Ohtani can. But how big has he got? It's like he's, we know, if you broadcast for the Orioles in the American League East, you're used to seeing Stan and Judge and all that. Guys that are superhuman, they look like they should, be on the, in the movies and, in some of the, the superhero movies and all that. So, but Ohtani, I saw him a couple of years ago when we could actually go on the field and talk to players and all that. And yeah, and then you saw him run and you said, gee, he hits the ball a long way. Now he hits the ball a real long way to all fields. Pitching wise, Mike Scioscia was the manager. I said, you got to get him in the middle of pitching rubber. He's going to hurt his arm, which he did. So he did the Tommy John. It's kind of what Al Michaels used to always talk about. He said, when you could be reading a book and when now hitting for the Oakland A's, Reggie Jackson, you stop reading. When Ohtani pitches or comes to the plate, you pay attention.
Yep.
So I don't know if you can say it any better than that. I'm sure people could say it much more eloquently. Bob Costas comes to mind when we talk about that. But yeah, he's a special player. And if you're an Angel fan, or you got to see Tom Seaver strike out the last 10 batters, on April 22nd in 1970.
Right.
Just to think that you were there, or you get to see Ohtani do some of the things he does. That's what makes baseball the game it is.
Jim, I appreciate your time. I think who's that? What's the name of your dog that's letting you know?
I named it Teddy Grossman's a world famous stuntman. He's 90 years old, and I have a stepson with autism, and Spencer says, let's name him Teddy Grossman. So
okay.
We have a human Teddy Grossman who lives in Santa Monica, and then we have Teddy Grossman who's barking in the background, a little wired-haired dachshund from about an hour south of from Atlanta. Got him 5 years ago, the day that Jordan Spieth hit the two balls in the water. We were an hour away from Willow Spring Dachshund Farm, where we got the animal. We drove 1,200 miles from Palm Beach to get him. When the Spieth dumped a couple of balls in the water on 12, which I had done too. So I know it's, of course, he's not supposed to be a Jim Palmer.
Well, let's see him throw one up and into Johnny Bench one day, Jim, and see how it works.
That's true.
So,
hey, Rich, take care.
Thanks for the call, Jim. Look for my call again. I'd love to keep this conversation going. Thank you. Appreciate
You're welcome.
it. That's Jim Palmer. Check him out, calling Orioles games, and also on Twitter. Fun stuff from Jim Palmer right there here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.